All right, here we are checking out our natural climate driver learning targets. Remember, each driver has these 3 questions. So our first one here is continental location. So we want to say, what is it? What's the idea here? What's the impact to climate? And then how do we know? What's the evidence that says this is what happened? So we've got some keywords: moved, location, continents, equator, and fossils. So this is one we talked about in class. We already know this idea of continental location and the idea that the continents move around the planet. That's all we're looking for this first one here, right? Continents I'm just going to say move to different locations on Earth. They move, they have moved, and they're still moving today. Maybe that's what we should say. Continents have moved to different locations on Earth, and they still move today. So we used move and locations. Cool. Oh, and continents. Okay. All right. Now, what is the impact to Earth's climate? So in your investigation, you saw those fossils from Minnesota and saw how they were part of a marine environment, which of course we are not now. And you also saw the slide about the fern in Antarctica. And we know that's not possible. So this one is a little tricky here because it's not that all climates of continents have warmed or not all have cooled. It depends on where they moved to, right? And that's where this keyword equator comes in. So when we have continents move towards the equator, what's happening with their climate? Are they warming or cooling? You can fill that in. And then same idea, when continents move away or towards the poles, we could say, climate warms or cools. So we're using the blanks here to write in warms or cools. And again, we used equator. So we know continents have moved around the Earth, still moving today. Their climates change depending on where they are relative to the equator. As they move towards the equator, they see a warming or cooling. As they move towards the poles, they see a warming or cooling. So fill in the blanks with warm or cool. Then the last part here is, how do we know? What evidence do we have that shows us, yeah, continents have moved and yeah, climates have changed? And you got a pretty big clue here from your last key word. Our last key word here, fossils, that's our evidence. So we don't have specific numbers to use here, but we want to explain in this number 3 how fossils of different organisms have been found in areas where the current climate doesn't match the climate that that organism needed to live. So again, like the Minnesota example, that marine fossil that organism lived in the deep, warm oceans. Minnesota is not a deep, warm ocean, right? We are land and we have cold seasons. So that's what we want to talk about here. That fossils of certain environments are found today in areas that don't have that environment. So that clues us in. That's our evidence that the continents have moved, and where they've moved to or from impacts their climate.